Hey everybody, welcome to my Suburban Oasis. My name's Soleil and I garden in a Zone 5B in mid-Michigan, and we're going to do some summer maintenance tasks today. We just definitely have been kicking off summer. We've had some 90-degree temperatures and some of the flowers have gone over now. So we're going to do some deadheading and then we're going to head to the way back garden. I'm going to plant a couple of plants back there and yeah, maybe show you around a little bit. All right, let's get started. So the first thing that we have here is some phlox, and right here is the opening act Deadheading Phlox, and this has finished 95% of its blooms, and yeah, so it doesn't look that great anymore. This has potential for reblooming, but to kind of help that along and to tidy up the garden, it's always nice to deadhead. So when we start with deadheading these, I can do it real simple by coming in with each one, and I can look for, right above a leaf node and snip on each one. That would take me a really long time with the number of phlox and different types of flowers that I have in my garden to deadhead. So the easiest way for me to do it right now is to just kind of grab some and then snip off the tops. Now this isn't, again, going to be perfect or anything, but it's going to definitely tidy it up, and it may even cause it to take a little bit longer to put on any rebloom, but for me it's worth it in terms of the time that I save at cutting things back. And you can see how quickly that just kind of makes it look a lot nicer and cleaner. And if I have too many little flat white tips at the top that you can see, you can actually come back through and cut one or two down a little bit lower and make it look a little bit nicer. So it all just depends on how tidy you like your garden to look and how much quicker you want things to rebloom and that kind of thing. So just think about that when you're deadheading. What is your goal? Is your goal to just clean up your garden a little bit and get the blooms ready to reset and start over? Or is your goal to make everything look as perfect as possible? Now for me, I just like to try to keep things looking a little bit tidy, and they look so much healthier once you've cut back the dead blooms. Even though they're the same plant, you can just get a good sense of the health of your plant as well when you're working close up with them. You can check for any disease, you can check for any bug problems. Anything like that becomes very evident when you're working with your plants and doing some of this deadheading. So it's a good opportunity to just keep your eye out, do a little bit of observation as you go, and get things tidied up. So we'll just finish up this plant, and then I'm going to show you also how I deadhead the Penstemon. Many people have asked me why their phlox aren't blooming yet. That may be because yours are just an autumn blooming phlox. These are actually done blooming for the first time because these are part of the opening act series from Proven Winners, so they open really early in the season. And then if we're lucky, we'll get another bloom later on. All right, well that is pretty much what I'm going to do for today, and I think it looks really nice. So here we are in the back part of the garden, and we have some Penstemon that has gone over. So this was a beautiful dusky violet Penstemon, and now we can see the seed heads have set. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in and we're going to trim each one of these back, and I'll show you how to do them individually because that's usually how I like to do these. Okay, so I'm just going to follow this back down to where there are no longer any seeds coming out from the bract, and so that's right about down here. So I'm going to clip it right above this node here, and that is all that you have to do for that. Now these may or may not rebloom. I've had success some years and other years not so much. The nice thing about these is, again, you can clip them at kind of different heights, and that makes it look a little bit more natural after you cut them back, but they will start to grow some nice new growth. at each of those points on either side of where your cut was. So there'll be some leaves that come out on this side and some leaves that come out on this side. And it will usually take a week or two for that to happen. But pretty soon you won't even realize that you cut anything back, and it'll look nice and fresh. This actually looks like it might be a weed. I'm gonna take that right out. That's another good thing to look for when you're in your garden doing any kind of maintenance task this time of year. Sometimes weeds can crop up out of nowhere and be giant, like after a thunderstorm, or you get some nice sunshine after a thunderstorm. So keep your eye out for all those little things while you're out in the garden. That way you don't have to keep coming back to the same area repeatedly. Make your work a little bit more efficient, especially in the hot part of summer. I don't know about you, but for me right now, it feels like sometimes it's hard to find a good time to get out and do work in the garden, especially because I work full time during the day. All right, let us go do some planting. Okay, well, here we are in the way back garden, and this is right where kind of the path that we started ends, and then it comes up this way, but I don't really have enough plants around it to make it look really like a path. It's just kind of started. I've got a couple lungworts right here, one there. I have some oh my goodness, this is some barrenwort or epimedium, and then we have a small fern right here, a mum, and another epimedium. And yes, there's lots of weeds, you guys, but this is kind of how it starts in terms of trying to take back a wild space. And you can see that this part back here is looking a little bit more put together than some of the other parts, because that's really where I started planting last year at the end of the fall. So over here we have a couple of different plants. These are from our clearance plant haul. We have our 2 opal lungworts that we're going to plant on the left side of the path here as we come up. And then on the right side of the path, just after the epimedium, we're going to plant our 2 Jack Frost Brunneras. So I think they're going to look really good. I've got my root slayer out here, and it's supposed to be raining, hopefully overnight and tomorrow morning. If not, I will have to come out here with some water and water them in. But we're not going to water them in tonight. We'll see how it goes. All right, let's get digging. So we have had some rain come through here, not a ton. So I'm hoping my digging won't be too hard. There's usually all sorts of roots in here though, from little bushes and shrubs and trees that I have, cut back to make room for actual plants that aren't invasive and that kind of thing. So this lungwort on the right here, or Pulmonaria, is called Diana Claire, and it has beautiful deep dark blue and pink blooms in the springtime. Oh, this has really, really nice roots, you guys. That's exciting to see. Now, when planting on a hill, it is important to try to make your plant about even with the top edge of the hill. So that's what we're going to try to do today. I do see another root down in here that I want to kind of stab out if I can. There we go. And I have to say that this soil is much more workable than it was just a couple years ago. It still is very heavy clay, but at least the top few inches you can see are quite well diggable before I hit like a really hard layer about 4 or 5 inches down. And now we're just gonna pack this soil in around it. I'm not amending or anything like that. Hopefully this fall we'll have plenty of leaves to mulch with. And just pull away some of those weeds that are right next to it there. Not trying to thoroughly weed the bed right now, just trying to make sure there's no root competition right at the base of that plant. All right, let's get the other one in. All right, I'm just using the shovel to trim back a little bit of this catmint here so that I can see where the ground is. And that is just some Walker's Low Nepeta that I had on hand that I thought would be good ground cover back here while I get things established. It certainly likes a little bit more sunshine than it's getting back here, but when you're trying to just improve the soil and cover the ground and avoid invasive plants, anything that will survive and look halfway decent is a good way to get things started. I do have to be a little bit careful back here in this area because sometimes I have really small plants or seedlings that I planted that you can't see very well, or there's a bunch of weeds that are nearby that look just like a plant that you have to try to figure out where you're stepping. So I'm trying to do it as systematically as I can in terms of the planting, so I know whereabouts I can step without having to worry, and where I may need to think twice. I'm going to give both of these a nice squish with my foot as well, just because when plants are in pots, they tend to get a little bit fluffy with their roots. There we go. All right, we've got a couple Brunnera to put in now. Let's get those in the ground. Wow, I can't believe, you guys, the quality of the soil change just in this short period of time. It doesn't take a lot. Some of the improvement is due to just using mulch when I'll be planting something. If I have a little bit of mulch left over from another garden area, I might bring some of that back here and just put it around the plant that I planted. Sometimes I'm just using the chop and drop method, basically weeding things and then putting the weed right on top of the soil where it came from, so it's feeding the soil again, covering the soil so that nothing else grows in its place, but helping to keep the moisture in. And I can just tell the color of the soil and the texture of the soil is changing over time here. Super exciting. All right, last one, and then we'll give you a good look at how this turned out. Now these Brunnera, they stay fairly low, but they grow fairly wide. So they should really fill in the area. And if needed, I can come through and divide off parts of them to continue to use them back here. And that's the nice thing, is once you get plant material established back here, I no longer have to like carry, you know, big pots of things back here, because I can take some of the plants that are already established back here and divide them around. And if I see something that's doing extremely well, I will repeat it, because that way I don't have to worry about whether or not it's going to survive back here, because that can be a tricky dance. I do expect after, you know, turning this soil over to get these planted, that I will get more weeds popping up in this area. But for right now, I think this is looking really nice. All right, well, for those of you who are new to my channel, I just want to explain a little bit about this area and why it appears to be quite ungroomed at this point. This is just the wild area, back third of our property. It has a very steep hill on it. The camera doesn't do it justice. We have a wildlife berm at the bottom of the hill, and then a nice big giant compost bin for all my plant material. And we've been planting these evergreens and cutting down the invasive honeysuckle back here for quite some time, trying to just make it look a little bit more like a natural garden. So it's never going to be perfect back here, but I just want it to be a lovely place with a couple of paths to walk in and enjoy, you know, the woodland space, because I love woodland gardens. So I think things are looking really good now with these planted along the path. You know, we have some hellebores that are in here. That star looking leaf is one. We have some up here as well. They are going to reseed this year and continue to create little babies throughout. We have another one right here and up here. We have vinca vine that I planted, which is a fairly aggressive vine that's doing a really good job of covering the ground. And in addition to that, another one that's pretty assertive is this lamium. This is the purple dragon lamium, and it just really lights up this back pathway. We have some autumn ferns, which I planted this spring, and I'm really pleased that they're still alive, because I planted them basically just before we had that incredible drought. And even far back there, you can see we have some golden Hakona chloe grass. So things are doing pretty well back here. I am definitely happy with it. We've got some large root geranium as well. There are some daffodils and spring bulbs that come up as well in the spring. So it's beginning to look more like something than nothing, and I'm really enjoying it and the process, because it's just, you know, something that you kind of do over time and you get to see it slowly change and take shape. Thanks everybody for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I have fun getting out in the garden with you all. It is certainly hot and sweltering, so I'm ready to be done for the day. We also even had the camera shut down because it was so hot. Well, thanks again, and share with me in the comments below how your gardens are coming along. Are you doing deadheading? What plants do you leave standing and which ones do you cut back? Thanks again for joining me, and we'll see you next time. Bye.